Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today for my regular Monday this and that video where I talk about all kinds of different topics, lead you back to some old videos, maybe answer some questions that came in this last week, and so on. So let's get busy on the topics of today. So obviously, I've been harvesting some different herbs for the past couple of weeks, getting them dehydrated up. One of those would be the stinging nettle. So I just brought in a sprig of that because I'm not doing a bunch of this today, but just to use as a visual. Yes, I'm handling it barehanded. You can do that if you're careful and you know where to grab it. But I still tend to sting myself quite a bit, but I just get used to it. It really doesn't bother me much at all. And some comfrey. This is one of the newest ones I just started a few days ago because it's coming in like crazy. And even though the leaves are real small right now, they will get much bigger. I decided I'm going to get started early. And even in just the few days that I cut the leaves off for the last batch I dehydrated, I'm seeing a whole bunch of new growth coming up. That's what I love about comfrey, and nettle is the same way. So lots of great uses. I have videos on all these herbs individually. I have one on the nettle. I actually have two on nettle. I have one on the benefits and uses, which is kind of old, so I'm sure that I can add a lot of updated information to that. And then one I shot last year about cooking with nettle, and I'll link to that specifically down below, but I'll link to the whole herb playlist that has the comfrey, the thyme, and the nettle in there, plus a whole bunch of other herbs that I use, that I grow and use, and so on and so forth. So the thing that I just started today is the thyme. So this particular thyme, I grow several different varieties, but one of the things I like about just your common garden thyme is one of the first ones to really start growing. I find it to be the hardiest plant. Some of my other thyme tends to peter out after a couple of years, but this one just keeps going and going. And again, the first one I get to harvest in the spring. So this is my first tray of that. And I do have a video that I shot, I think last year, about, I'm always doing videos every year about dehydrating herbs, but I have one that's more specific about times, temperature, and tips when it comes to drying herbs. So I'm going to link to that in the description box down below. By the way, if you're new, make sure that you click on either show more in all caps right down here below my channel name, or that little gray triangle. If you are on a smart device, that is where you'll open the description box if you're watching this from YouTube. One of the things that I do, that I started doing a couple of years ago, was making some cloth covers for my different trays. So I have the Kosori now, I have the Nesco, so I have some round covers I've made, and then I have some more square shaped ones for my off-grid dehydrator that's always by my wood stove when I'm doing that. So having the cloth, it's going to breathe better than any kind of plastic, and it's going to catch things better than some of those little mesh trays you get to go over to cover your trays. It's supposed to hold everything in. Those still don't hold everything in, especially when you're talking about things like thyme, which has little teeny tiny leaves on it, or anything else that as it's drying, it tends to want to, the petals want to fall off, like calendula or dandelion or whatever, and then they fall through there and make a big mess. Well, having the cloth just keeps it all contained, and I find things actually dehydrate faster using the cloth because you're getting better airflow and it's absorbing some of that moisture and spreading it out, so it dries faster that way too. So I have a video just on making some cloth covers. It's not hard. You can hem them if you want. It's all a matter of choice. And you just want to make sure you're sticking with natural fabrics, preferably like 100% cotton. It's going to breathe well. Sheet material is really good if you can find it in 100% cotton, because it's already on the thinner side, so that's perfect. That's what I've used on all of mine, is old sheets. Obviously, making sure they're clean. So then right here I have, this is like my third jar of nettle for the year so far, a quart jar. And what I do is I just use I still got to top it off, but I just use a tamper that Patrick made to really kind of press it down in there so I can fit a lot more in there. Otherwise, if I was to shake this up, it would totally fill the jar all the way up. But I want to pack as much into each jar as possible to save pantry space. So that's what I do there. And then this one, this is actually, since I just started on the comfrey, you're probably thinking, how do I already have a full jar? Well, that's because this was the last jar I was filling up from 2021. And so what I do when I have jars like that, I still had some space. Then when I start drying for the next year, I will top it off with that herb. And then I'll go ahead and add 2022 in there. And then but because I try to work through anything, just like anything in your pantry. You try to start with the oldest, working all the way up to the newest, so you're getting the most out of it, and that's why you're not wasting your herbs. So that will be the last jar from 2021 that I'll use. I'll go through the other ones first. I actually have some that goes back to 2019 I'm working through right now. And then I just vacuum seal using, as you can see in many of my videos, and I'll link to one of those that shows it down below, where I use the brake bleeder pump and the food saver tops, or I use the chamber to vacuum seal my jars. I'll link to the one I did on the tips on using the brake bleeder pump. I think that'll be the most thorough one for you to watch. And then as far as more garden related updates, I did get the potatoes planted and the snow peas. Remember, I was talking about them in last week's video. I did immediately that very day go out there and get those planted. So that's done. I'm glad I did it when I did, because then suddenly it started raining, and it has rained ever since. Today's like one of the first real nice days we've had since then. And today I actually am going to start planting my calendula and my nasturtiums. I have two different ones. I like to start these in pots on the greenhouse wall there, the one that faces the south, because it gets the most light, the most heat, but it's on the outside of the greenhouse. So I like to start my nasturtiums in pots first, then I'll move them to other areas in the garden as it warms up. It's just a good place to give them a good start. I don't need to start them in the greenhouse, as long as I can start them in an area that stays protected and a little bit warmer. And then obviously, I'm a little late on this, but I am going to get going on my lettuces in those pots on the top in that same area. So here's some pictures taken from previous years. You can see how I grow my lettuce. I find that just works best for me than growing it directly in the ground. And they stay more protected up there. And then later in the season, because the grapevines fill in, they're not getting so much sun during the hotter part of summer, so they stay protected from that, because lettuce doesn't like a whole lot of sun, most lettuces anyway. So late getting that started, but I'll be doing that. And I'm going to be trying again to grow some black cumin or black seed or Nigella sativa and see how that does for me this time around. I've grown Love and a Mist, which is very closely related, and that did okay. I don't know why this wouldn't work, but the seeds I tried last year were ones that I bought for more to consume, and they're raw, but I never got them to germinate, so I thought I'd go ahead and try buying some that were specifically for planting to see if I had any better luck with them this time. And then the other thing I'm going to do here, I got this neem oil sitting here. Now that my gooseberry's been filling in, some of you may remember last year my leaves all got decimated by sawfly larvae, so I want to get busy on it this year, make sure I protect those leaves, because last year I thought they'd be fine because they leave the berries alone, but I got on it too late. The leaves were already mostly gone, and then we had that 3-day heat wave in the middle of June that cooked all the berries on the plant. Without the leaves there to give them some shade and protection, every single berry on my gooseberry plant, you can see they were just cooked. They turned kind of this ugly color, and they had just started getting to the point where they were starting to get ripe. Now my currants, some of my currants got cooked, but because they all still have their leaves, most of them stayed protected. So this year I'm going to make sure I keep up on that. I'm going to be spraying the neem oil mixed with water. It's totally natural and safe. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your pets, but it is deadly to insects. So I'm going to be doing that to keep up on that and make sure that we kill those larvae, because even the chickens won't eat those things. They must taste pretty nasty. And then while I'm talking about gardening, one question I get a lot is people ask me what zone I'm in. And while I get it, I think sometimes people forget that zone only refers to one part of a climate, one aspect of a climate, and that is the hardiness. That doesn't mean that just because I can grow something in 8B that you can grow something in 8B, and vice versa, because Danny and Wanda from Deep South Homestead are also in zone 8B, and they can grow all kinds of stuff that we cannot grow here. Again, because it only refers to hardiness when we're talking about freezing. Nothing else applies to that. So when you're looking at climate, you need to look at the whole. Here we get an average of 120 inches of rain. We have very mild summers, and we have pretty mild winters. We do have some hard freezes once in a while, but not that bad. And we don't get snow very often. Some years we don't get any, some years we just get a little bit. Zone-wise, you can't compare what we're doing here to what you're doing, because there's going to be too many other things that are very different. And even people who live within the same climate, their backyard could be very different in soil conditions and other things and the amount of sun they get than the person right next door. So everything's going to be a little bit different for you. So you got to just do what you can and learn as you go. Sometimes experience is the best education when it comes to growing things in your own area. And don't not grow something just because somebody told you it doesn't grow there. But if you try it a few times and it's not going to do it, put your energy into stuff that you know is going to do well. So that's just a quick tip on that. I'll link to a couple of garden related videos I did earlier, either earlier in this year or towards the end of last year, that I think will be helpful as far as that goes. And then coming back to vacuum sealing, one thing, that question I do get frequently and I don't always think to answer is, can I use Tattler or Harvest Guard lids for vacuum sealing foods, dried foods, into jars? And initially, the older ones, yes, you could, though they didn't always hold the seal as well as your metal lids. The newer ones, the Easy Seal, I don't know about Harvest Guard for sure on this because I've never tried them, but the Easy Seal ones for the Tattler ones don't hold a seal at all. Maybe for a few seconds, maybe for a few minutes, but it's not worth it. Save those for canning and use your metal lids. The thing that's great about metal lids, you can use them for canning with, and those, once you do that, those ones seem to work better for vacuum sealing than the brand new ones. And then you can use them over and over and over again. I have lids that I'm positive I've used more than 10 times to vacuum seal various things. And I wouldn't know because I don't keep count. I can just tell because the letter is all wearing off. You can just tell they're older, but they still seal great. So don't throw your metal canning lids out. In fact, you can use them for canning again. I've done it before and I'm going to do it some more this year. I'm going to keep experimenting with it, and I've had people tell me that they do that all the time. As long as the lid is not bent up, it's still in good condition, the seal part is still intact, they should still work just fine. And then another thing, with now that our spring hummingbirds, our winter hummingbirds have left, our spring hummingbirds are here now, so it was time to refill the hummingbird feeders, and I wanted to remind everybody the importance of getting the right sugar for your hummingbirds. A lot of us think, especially if we're more into organic stuff, oh, I should get the organic blonde cane sugar, that will be healthier for the hummingbirds because it's a little healthier for us. No, it's not. Don't do that. Whenever you're talking about hummingbirds, you want to stick with one sugar and one sugar alone, and that is your white pure cane sugar, not beet sugar. If it just says white sugar, it's beet sugar, and beet sugar is typically genetically modified. In fact, I'm not even sure if you can get beet sugar that's not genetically modified, but you can get pure cane sugar that's non-GMO. It should be white. It should have no color in it because hummingbirds cannot handle the minerals that you'll find in the blonde organic cane sugar or coconut sugar or even honey. These are all bad for them and can actually kill them. Please take good care of those hummingbirds. And you don't need to add any food coloring. It's highly advised you stay completely away from that. They will still consume that nectar. Just good clean water and pure cane sugar is all you need. And the ratio of that should be 1 part cane sugar to 4 parts water. So that would mean a cup of water to a 1/4 cup of sugar. So for every cup of water, add another 1/4 cup of sugar. Okay, and then 2 more things I wanted to cover real quick. One is, another question I get quite often is people asking me if they can use stevia or monk fruit sweetener in place of sugar when they're talking about ferments, specifically for making vinegar. No, you cannot do that. You can add it, but these are non-nutritive sweeteners, which means they don't have the food in them that the bacteria and yeast need to feed on, and then it has to have something that can convert to alcohol first. So sugar is what gets converted into alcohol. Then the alcohol gets converted into vinegar. So you have to have a sugar. Just remember, the end product is not going to have sugar in it, especially if you're talking vinegar. All that sugar gets eaten through, there's no sugar left. If you use something like monk fruit or stevia or some other kind of non-nutritive sweetener, it's not going to eat through that. So not only will it not ferment, even if you add sugar and add the stevia and monk fruit, what you're going to end up with then is a sweet vinegar. So unless you want a sweet vinegar, don't even bother adding the stevia or the monk fruit sweetener to it. No non-nutritive sweetener should be used in making vinegar unless you want it to be sweet. but you still have to have that real sugar. And in that case, I use organic cane sugar. Honey is also a very good option as long as it has nutrients, something that can be converted into alcohol and then into vinegar. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is, let's come back to Rumble. So some of you know I had to go ahead and get my Rumble account that I've had for a couple years now up and going because I had some videos removed here, and then I had to go ahead and take some other videos down, edit out parts, and then put them back here. But I wanted to let you know that those videos can all be found in their entirety over at Rumble. So I wanted to explain how you can find the videos. You should be able to do a search in search bar just like you would with YouTube. You might even be able to put Rain Country Homestead and put the name of the video, such as Vapor Rub. And that's one of the ones that I had to take down and edit and put back up. There was a few different videos. I know two for sure were recipes. One was the Vapor Rub, one was the joint and muscle rub, and then I had the one where I was talking about castor oil and then what I mix it with to use it with various things. I had to cut that part out to put it here. And then there was a video that just came out on Friday where I was talking about the self-sufficiency books, and I had to take it out of that as well. And I know there's another one I'm forgetting right now, but anyway, if you're wanting to find those videos, you can either do a search specifically for that video, or you can scroll through. Just realize that I've got enough videos over there on Rumble now that there's, at least at the time I'm shooting this, there's 3 pages worth of videos. So scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you don't see the video you're looking for, then go to the next page. And then if it's not in there, go to the next page. Because I know the very first video I had to put up, because it was one of the ones that was removed, was the first video I uploaded, which means when you're looking at those videos, you're seeing the ones that I uploaded most currently, and the first one I uploaded is going to be on that last page, and it's going to be down at the bottom. So that's where you're going to find that very first video that had to go completely from here. And so you can either search that way. You can do the search, you try to use the search bar to see if you can find it. I know I've been able to find some of my own videos in Rumble by doing it that way, but if you still can't find it and you're getting frustrated, then you can go ahead and email me. I'll give you the direct link. But if you could please search for it first, just to save me a little bit of time, that would be helpful. But if you can't find it, I get it, I understand, and I'll go gather the direct link and email it to you. But just know I'm still going to be doing YouTube. I'm going to be doing both places, putting some of my older videos as they come to mind, the ones I think really need to go over on Rumble. I'm not going to be putting all 15, almost 1,600 videos over on Rumble. I'm just putting up the newest ones, as well as some of the older ones I think that are really important that should be up there and have at least another place. But just know I do have all my videos backed up on external hard drives. So even if for some reason my channel from here just totally disappeared, I still have those videos. At that point, I'll be putting even more up over at Rumble, and I'll be shooting videos for there. And also know it is likely I'll be shooting some separate videos that will only go to Rumble because of the topics that we're just not allowed to talk about here, because they're really cracking down and preventing us from talking about all kinds of great stuff. Doesn't matter how much scientific evidence there is to prove how well it works and has worked for hundreds and thousands of years. It's just not allowed. Also know my email address is always in the description box down below, and I'll also put it right here so you can see it, raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. So once you know how to open that description box, usually you can find any of the information you're looking for, including links that I mentioned. And if you can't find the link, it's simply because I forgot to put it in there. And before I go, make sure you go ahead and share with us down below. How's your garden doing right now? What kind of things are you bringing in, dehydrating, and so on and so forth to put up for long term? And thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.